Okay, hi everybody, and welcome to From the Sidelines. I am your host, Sydney Jones, and I really hope that this becomes a space for you all to take something away from and apply to your own careers. Um, From the Sidelines is going to kind of be a place where all athletes of all ages and male or female, whatever sport you play, these episodes are going to really provide you with important lessons that you can take and apply to your career however you see fit. This is going to be a place for you to make of it what you may. And I really like the tagline for this show to be for athletes by athletes. And even though right now it's just me, I could potentially have guests later on in the future, but I want you guys to understand that this is coming from a place from someone who's been there and done it, and someone who can relate to all of you on a lot of different factors of when it comes to sports. So I want you guys to be confident in that and to understand that this is only coming from a place of experience and from a place of care for giving back to this generation of athletes. That's kind of why I feel like I've felt called to this space for a while now. I haven't exactly been able to figure out how until now, but I've really felt a sense of guidance towards the athletes of today, especially the younger generations, and wanting to give back and give you guys an opportunity to learn and grow in your own careers, because I think the minute we stop recognizing that sports really do provide so many life lessons is the minute that we don't realize what sports are all about, right? Sports are not about all your stats or, necessarily winning all the time. Sorry for the sirens. But, like I said, sports are not just about that, right? Sports are about personal growth and, maturity and life lessons and things you could take with you when you hang up those cleats for the last time, or those shoes, or whatever type of sport you're playing. So, I really want From the Sidelines to be a space for that, and I really want it to be a place where you guys can all interact with each other as well. There's going to be obviously a comment section and, things that you can put forth to make this show what you want to get from it, and I really hope you do that. So whether you're listening wherever you get your podcasts or you're watching over on YouTube, please go ahead and give this show a rating. Go ahead and subscribe for future episodes so that you can stay in the loop. I plan to potentially post once a week or so to kind of get you guys that content as we continue to move forward. And I really hope this is a place where you can take something from it. And I plan to keep the episodes probably right around the 30-minute mark. Nothing too crazy or too long. I know with it just being me, hearing from the same person for an hour might just get to be too much. And so I think right around that 30-minute mark is a good place to start. And potentially moving forward, if we do get special guests and things like that, it may, become a little bit longer of a show. But 30 minutes, I feel like, is a good time frame to apply to everybody, because I really want to be able to connect with athletes of all ages, whether you're, in the younger phases of just starting out. There's a lot of figuring out you have to do at that point, and I want this to be a place for them, and I want this to be a place for high school athletes maybe who are embarking or trying to embark on the next journey of their career and trying to get to the next level. Or if you just see yourself being a high school athlete and then moving on, that there's a space for that too here, and there's lessons you can learn even from that here. And then also I want this to be a place for those college athletes who maybe you're on, the 10th long bus ride of your season so far, and you've found yourself listening to the same songs over and over and over again on your, 5, 10, 5, 6, 7, 8 hour bus ride, and you're just kind of over it. And, you can take 30 minutes out of your studies or, watching a movie or something to just listen and to grow in your thoughts. I think this can be a place for you guys as well. And that's really what my hope is for this, is for you to take it however you feel you need to take it and to move forward with it in that way, because whatever lessons come from the show are going to be able to be applied to your specific career however you see fit. No one is going to look the exact same, and that's what I want. That's good. I think as athletes, we can kind of get into that mindset sometimes of comparing ourselves. And I don't want this to be a place for you to compare yourself to anybody. Your career is your career and your career alone. And I really hope you take pride in that. And I hope you take from this whatever it is that is going to make you better in whatever sport you're playing, in whatever phase of your career you're in. So as for me, obviously I want to give you guys a little bit of intro to me so that you can feel confident that, what I'm giving you guys is coming from a place of experience and coming from a place of someone who's been there and done it, right? So I was the first of 2 girls. I think my mom tried everything in her power to kind of do the whole dance and gymnastics route. And, while I think there's a great opportunity there for development, especially at a really young age, in those sports, it was just never something that I completely loved. I was very much so a daddy's girl at a young age, and I found myself wanting to do the things that he did, and he played baseball. So naturally, that's kind of where I headed. I had an older cousin as well at the time who played baseball, so I feel like it's kind of what our family knew and kind of what our family was involved in. So I think I was probably around 4 when my parents signed me up for t-ball for the first time, and it kind of just took off from there. Obviously, at a very young age, we recognized that softball would be the route for me, and to remove me from the t-ball space and put me into an actual rec league for softball in our area. So that's kind of what we did. And luckily for me, the coaches that I had on that very first rec team when I was 6 years old ended up being 2 of the most influential people in my softball career as I knew it, and are to this day still second parents to me. They had 3 daughters of their own, and obviously we all kind of just grew up in the sport together. So I got to start off on a very high note and kind of lay the framework for what my career would end up being, because I got to start off with such good coaches and kind of instill the softball frame of mind, I guess you could say, into me from such a young age. So from there, it was by around 8 years old when I started to compete in travel ball, which is obviously, again, the next step up from that. And those 2 coaches that I had mentioned, they also were part of the travel league that I was playing for at the time. So I got to kind of, again, like I said, move up the ranks with them, and I think it just provided a very steady and comfortable environment for me to not have to bounce back and forth from different coaches. And that really was something that I feel like propelled me into loving the sport and, starting my career off on the right foot. So, like I said, 8 and unders is kind of when travel ball started for us. And I have a younger sister who's about 5 years younger than me. So at the time she was really 3 years old. So, not at the age yet to where she could start, but I think for her, it kind of just became what she knew, and whether or not it was her choice to be at the ball field all day, it's kind of what she was just thrown into, and I think that ended up laying the framework for what her career would become as well. So it kind of quickly became a family affair, and that's kind of what it remained until my sister hung it up finally for the last time after her collegiate career. So so naturally as I got older, talent started to progress. The teams I was playing for got better. We kind of moved through the travel ball circuit together until about 14 and under. So that had been about 6 years that the core of our group had really been playing together and developing, again, like I said, under the same leadership, under the same coaches, and we were really, really lucky in that sense, because I even see today that that's not necessarily the case anymore, and for me, I know it was just such a huge factor in the athlete that I would become. So it was around 14 and under. Obviously, that was when high school kind of started to approach. So for us, and for me, my parents decided to have me apply for a magnet program for a school that I was not zoned for. And thankfully, that school was very well known in our area for just having a really good softball team at the time. And thankfully, I got in. I tried out, made the team as a freshman, and that actually became one of the most pivotal years, I feel like, for me, because I truthfully was on a team that was so talented, with so many girls that were committed to big time schools, and to be quite honest, I sat the bench, and that was the first time for me really in my career that I wasn't your everyday starter. Like I had said previously with our travel team, we kind of had that core group of 6 or so girls, and the team was kind of formed around us. So, we were definitely part of the everyday starter group. And for me to go into high school, not necessarily with a chip on my shoulder, I was never that cocky kind of player. I was just used, I guess, to starting every day, and to go into a situation where I was not going to be this everyday starter at either position that I typically played. It was definitely a learning experience for me, and one I'm so thankful for, because I really got to develop into an overall around athlete, and not just Sydney the catcher or Sydney the third baseman. I got to become a better teammate. I got to learn from people who were way more mature than I was at the time, and that instilled maturity in me, and that kind of propelled me to the next level. I don't know what my career would have looked like if I hadn't gone to Gardens, but I do know that it made me a better athlete, it made me a better person, and it made me a better teammate to go there and to learn and just almost be like on the sidelines, so to speak, and just watch how these older players kind of conducted themselves, how hard they worked, and that then obviously translated to me. So really going to Gardens was such a highlight in my career, and quite honestly probably a turning point for me, and just the development from that point moving forward. So the next couple of years, obviously, I kind of played out my high school career. I played for a very talented high school, and we were kind of always in the mix for different accolades, whether it was states. My sophomore year, we were #1 in the country for a decent amount of the year. So we were kind of in the limelight quite a bit when I was in high school, and that again was something I had to learn and to adjust to, because in travel ball it's not necessarily like that. No matter how good you are, right? We won all the time in travel ball, but then you get to high school and your team all of a sudden is #1 in the country on ESPN, and it's like, whoa, how do I deal with this? So again, like I said, kind of learning the different aspects of the game in a different, more magnified way when it came to high school ball was really important, and kind of the steps it took to get me to college. So obviously during high school, recruiting becomes kind of part of the game, so to speak. I think we can all kind of agree that the recruiting process is very taxing and very emotionally draining, but it's a necessary evil, you know, to get to that next level. And for me, I think I quite honestly never saw myself leaving the state of Florida. Sorry for all this background noise outside my house, but I just felt like I wanted to stay close to family, and I wanted my parents to be able to be a part of my career and to be able to go watch games and, you know, things like that. So leaving the state of Florida really wasn't on my radar, and it wasn't until we went to Colorado one summer with, you know, one of the big showcase tournaments out there, and were able to kind of be exposed to coaches that I necessarily wouldn't have been exposed to. And that was kind of where my later on future college coach would find me, was out in Colorado. And I remember when she expressed interest in my coach, and he kind of told me and my dad about it, and I was like, no. I kind of wrote it off right away, that it wouldn't be something that was going to work for me. It wasn't going to be something I was interested in, whatever. I think the interest kept coming. So my dad was like, okay, well, excuse me, we're going to go. And I was like, no, like we're not going to get on a plane and go fly to Illinois and do all these things when I'm not even going to go to school there. I knew I had made up in my mind that I wasn't going to go there. And my dad's like, they're expressing interest, we're going to weigh all of our options, and we're going to go. Because at this point, I had several Florida schools that were interested in me. And so, again, going to Illinois was never a thought in my mind. So he kind of drugged me on the plane to go. And I tell this story all the time. It's like so funny because literally he had to drag me on the plane. And we got there, and I think the nature of it just being so different than what I was used to, right? It was small town Illinois, and I'm from very busy Palm Beach County in South Florida, and it was just a very different environment, and I almost kind of like fell in love with the small town feel of it. And I remember telling my dad probably the first or second day we were there on my unofficial visit that that's where I was going to go. And again, huge surprise to myself, because I was like, what do you mean this is where I'm going to go? Like in my own head, I'm like, no, it's not. And then it just kept coming back to the realization that that's where I wanted to go. And I don't know if it just became the situation of Florida was so familiar and I wanted something different, and I never realized that until I was, you know, given that opportunity. But ultimately, Southern Illinois University is where I chose to pursue my collegiate career. And it presented its own opportunities, its own challenges. I had to go really far away at still pretty young age. I was 18, obviously, when I graduated high school. So I still had a lot of growing up to do. And unfortunately, and fortunately, I guess, there was good and bad to being so far away. But I had to kind of do it on my own. And I couldn't just decide I was homesick one weekend and come home. That just was not going to happen. Our nearest airport, number one, was like 2 hours away, and number two, I was a college kid. I wasn't paying for no flight to come home. So it kind of became more of a Sydney, you've got to figure it out situation, more so than I had ever experienced before. So that was kind of what my college career looked like. And, you know, we'll dive into college athletics a lot more in future episodes. But, you know, college is a beast in its own right, and it's the most amazing thing, and it also has the hardest challenges you're probably going to face in your career. So just the the topic of college athletics alone is something that we can dive so much deeper into, and we will in future episodes. So I don't want to get too deep into it right now, but that's kind of just my experience and my story. And obviously, like I said, I just kind of want to give you guys a little bit intro into who I am, what my career was, and from there. Obviously, it was 2018 when I hung it up for good after our final game in the conference tournament. We had made it to the conference championship for the second year in a row, and unfortunately we fell short, but that was kind of that pivotal day that all athletes talk about, that is really just difficult to put into words, the bittersweetness of it all, because it really is the end of your life as you've known it. For at that point it had been 14 years that I had been involved with the sport of softball, and from that day forward it would no longer ever look the same. It's definitely a very tough realization, and one that a lot of athletes I feel aren't prepared for. So like I said, we'll get into a lot of that in future episodes, but what did my life look like post-career and for the last 5 years or so now? I came back home. I was excited to get back to South Florida. And yeah, I went to grad school, got my master's, and really just started working. That's kind of what it's looked like for the last 5 years. But like I said, I've really just felt called lately to give back and to provide something for athletes to learn from and to grow from, because I am so thankful and I feel so blessed for the career that I was able to have, but I know it's not necessarily like that for everyone. So I want this to be a space for you guys to come to when you need it, and find an episode somewhere that talks directly about what you're going through at that time, because I know there's going to be something here for everybody. So that brings me to my next point that I wanted to talk about. And I feel like when people start a podcast or start a YouTube channel or something, it's always like, oh, well, how is this going to be any different? Or what's this going to be about? Something like that. And for me, my hope for this channel and for the sidelines, from the sidelines, is just, like I said previously, to be a space for all athletes of all ages, male or female, all sports, right? Obviously my experience and everything is going to derive from what I experienced in softball, but I know for a fact the things that I've experienced can apply across the board when it comes to sports. And whatever sport you find yourself in, there's going to be life lessons and opportunities and situations that you find yourself in that can apply from these episodes and from this podcast, because it's something that all of us athletes share, and it's something that I'm super excited to just give to you guys and to talk about, because I feel like sometimes, we can have our huge idols, whether it's professionally or, whatever level of sport your idol plays at, and you can look up to them and you can work as hard as them and all that, but sometimes it's nice to hear from someone who was just your average everyday player, right? I didn't play professionally, I didn't go to the Olympics, I did play collegiately, which is, a small niche of its own, but I was just your everyday girl who worked really, really hard to make something of myself and to make something of my career. And sometimes hearing from people like that is really even more impactful than hearing your favorite football player in the NFL talk in a press conference, right? Or hearing your number one female soccer player idol who's been in the Olympics and played at the World Cup. Sometimes, like I said, it's great to have those idols, and I certainly had plenty of my own, but sometimes it's super nice and super refreshing to hear it from someone who you can relate to that isn't in the limelight, so to speak. So that's what I really want you guys to get from this. I want this channel to be a place for you to learn, Whether you're a athlete, a parent, a coach, someone who's retired, you know, there's going to be something here for everyone to learn from. And I hope you take it and apply it to your career as best you see fit. This is all about you, and whatever you can take from this channel to apply it to you is what I want for you, because my career is over, my career is done with, and I can obviously speak on my career and what I've learned, but your career is going to look nothing like mine, and it's going to look nothing like the next person's. So to be able to take what you can from this channel and apply it to your career to make you a better athlete is ultimately what I want for you. I also want this to be a place to inspire you. You know, two of the greatest things about sports is that they force you to learn how to deal with adversity, and they force you to learn how to deal with success. So two sides of the coin here, two very different sides of the coin, right? But when you're on that flip side, when you're struggling and you feel like every type of adversity is being thrown at you, you're in a slump, you can't make a shot, right? If you're a basketball player and you just can't seem to find the rim, if you're a football player and you are just struggling to get onto the field of any sort of playing time, right? Doesn't matter what sport you play, we are all going to be faced with adversity, and I hope this channel is a space for you to feel inspired to keep working harder, because the work you put in the off hours, when it's not at practice, when it's not at a game, right? When it's something like this where you're taking time out of your day to listen and to grow and to learn, right? I hope this is a place where you can also feel inspired, because being inspired as an athlete is something that will continue to propel you to the next phase of your career. So I also, you know, I think that this channel, I'm really going to make it a point to also challenge you guys, because if we're not being challenged as athletes, then we're not getting better, right? And, you know, if you are someone that struggles with maybe, how to word this, the maturity of what they say having an attitude, right? Or if you struggle with dealing with adversity to where you can see it on your physical presence, right? I want this to be a space to challenge you to learn and to get better at that. If you maybe struggle with, let's see, like listening so much to a coach or taking what your coach gives you and applying it, right? I want to challenge you to get better at that, right? And all of these little super minor things, obviously, number one, come with maturity, but number two are going to, you know, get you past that level that you're at to the next level, because ultimately anybody can be a really good ball player, right? No matter what sport you play, anybody can work really hard on the physical part of sports, but what's going to set you apart, especially when it comes to, you know, college recruiting and what these scouts are looking for, is really how you handle yourself and how you handle yourself when it comes to failure. So, you know, we say all the time in sports, you're going to fail so much more than you succeed, and that is so, so true. And how you handle that is going to have a huge impact on how far you make it. So, I really want this to be a space to challenge you to, you know, mature in the sense that you can handle those pressures and those failures when it comes to sports. And then finally, I really want this to be a place for you to grow, right? All these things combined, learning, inspiring, challenging, all of that combined is what's going to allow you to grow and become a better, not only athlete, but a better person, a better teammate, a better leader, you know, all these things that being an athlete is, it's part of being an athlete, right? You're going to get to a point in your career when you're asked to lead. You're going to be at a point in your career when you're asked to listen, right? There's different points and different times in your career where you're going to be asked of different things. And I hope that this channel is a place for you to grow in that and just kind of, again, develop the in between the ears aspect of sports, whether it's mentally or emotionally. So From the Sidelines is really going to be an all-encompassing space, and like I said, there's going to be something for everyone here. So I really hope you take advantage of it, because to be quite honest, I wish I had something like this during my career, and maybe there was something, but I didn't necessarily know how to research it at the time. But I really wish I would have had something like this to kind of just take a step away for a minute and just be with myself and collect my own thoughts, right? And learn and listen and hear from someone who's been there. So that's what I really hope you guys take from this. When it comes to the future of From the Sidelines, you know, obviously this is the first episode and we're kind of just starting out. I am, again, like I've said before, I'm not your influencer pro athlete that has a huge following already and has all these things figured out already. Like, no, I'm learning just as much as you guys are along this journey. So for the future, obviously I have a ton of ideas already planned out for episodes. I really want your guys' input as well. Comment sections are always going to be open, so please, whatever you're going through at this specific time in your career, please leave a comment. And if it's something we can discuss on this channel, I really will do my best to include it some way or another in an episode. And again, I want this to be a place where you feel like you're relatable to me or to other athletes in this space, because if you can't feel like you can relate, then it's going to be that much harder to apply to your career. So I want this to be a place where you feel like you're just talking to a friend and maybe even a teammate or a coach, right? Like, that's just who I am to you, right? I'm just your friend. I am your teammate. I am your coach. And I just want to allow you to develop into the best player that you can possibly be. And, you know, these episodes are going to be a place for you to do that. So that's kind of what the hope is for the future. Like I said, your suggestions are super valuable. Potentially in the future, we could have some guests on here, depending on what that looks like. I'm obviously not super sure yet, but I do know you'll have me, number one, but you will also, again, have a space where you can feel included and where you can feel valued, and where your struggles are everyone's struggles, okay? Because you might be in this point in your career where you're like, dang, I feel like I can't talk to anybody about this. I feel like I'm the only one going through this right now, but I can guarantee you that at some point or another, someone else has felt the exact same thing and is either going through it right now with you, or has somehow found a way to get through it and can help you then get through it. I think as athletes, we are part of such a small community in the grand scheme of things, of people that actually get to do this on a competitive level, and learning from each other is something we can always always value, and we should never take for granted, because there are certain people in this world that won't understand what you're going through, and that's okay. But this community is something that you can always turn to, and that's what I want this platform to become. So, like I said, to wrap all that up, From the Sidelines is really gonna be a channel for you to take your career to whatever height you want to take it, right? Just because I played collegiately doesn't mean that you have to want to play collegiately to listen, because that is just not the case. Whatever level you're at, whether it's youth level or high school or professionally even, right? There are gonna be things that we talk about here on this channel that can be applied to whatever aspect of sport you need to apply them to. So with that being said, obviously, if you have a athlete friend, please share this podcast and this channel with them. This channel is only going to get as big as we all make it together, and you guys sharing it with your athlete friends as a place where you guys can learn and grow together is something that I want for everyone here. So please share this with your friends. If you're a parent and you feel like your athlete has really grown here in this space, share it with another parent so they can they can listen with their kids. Parents, you guys are a huge part of this, because an athlete no matter what sport they play, male or female, can take themselves as far as they mentally and physically want to go. And then with your support, they can go further. So, parents, listen to these episodes with your kids. Learn how to apply it to, your life and your family life, right, moving forward. Because to be quite honest, your child's career is going to be a family affair. That's just kind of what it comes down to. The amount of time it takes nowadays, the amount of money, the level of commitment that sports take. It really does. It will become a whole family affair if you have several kids, everyone's going to be a part of it. And I think you see that even now on, when you think about just special moments. I think back to, I was watching a game the other day. It was the Braves and the Brewers, and one of the Brewers kids was making his MLB debut, and every time he came up, right, and every time he had an amazing game, and every time he came up, they showed his family in the stands, and everyone was there, his siblings, his parents, right? Everyone was there. It really does become a whole family affair. So tune in with your kids and listen to these episodes too, because I promise you there will be things for you as well as them. So, again, the more this podcast gets shared, and the more the more we get people talking about it and sharing it, the better it is for us, right? The more accessible it becomes to everybody. So I really hope you guys take a second to just, again, give it a rating, subscribe for future episodes, and share it with your friends, because that really will help the algorithm of the podcast, of the YouTube channel, and really just help it to grow. And I really feel like there are so many athletes out there that we can reach. And to be quite honest, this podcast and this channel, I'm not creating it to gain a following. Like, if one athlete hears this and one athlete can apply something from these channels or something from these episodes to their career to make them better, then that's worth it for me. But I do feel like there's a huge community of athletes out there that I myself alone cannot reach, and I am never too proud. I'm never too confident to be like, oh, I could do this all on my own. I can't. It really is going to be a channel, again, for athletes, by athletes. And I really, again, want your guys' input, and I want your guys' thoughts, because that's going to make me a better host, and that's just going to allow me to, apply the lessons to what you guys are going through a little bit better. So with all that being said, I'm really excited to start this journey and to kind of get it off on the right foot with you guys. Like I said, I do have some episodes in the works being planned, and I am just really thankful that y'all are here and willing to go on this journey with me. And I hope we can all learn from each other and get better together, because sometimes, to be honest, it is crazy to feel like it has been 5 years since I put a jersey on, but at the same time, I almost feel like mentally I'm even further now than I was then, if that makes sense. And that's just because, obviously, the natural maturity of life, but obviously now I understand, all the different aspects of sports and how they affect your life. And, I feel just such a calling to get back in the sports space and to teach, and, whatever that looks like. I've, dabbled in private lessons for, it was around 2.5 years. I've done some coaching, but, my expertise is softball. So face-to-face teaching, obviously, can only go so far, right? I could never go out and coach a girls basketball team. I wouldn't even know where to start, right? But I can talk about different concepts that arise in sports that can be applied across the board when it comes to mental toughness, when it comes to dealing with adversity, when it comes to dealing with success, right? All these things are translated across the board when it comes to sports, and that's why I really wanted to start this podcast, is to provide a space for all athletes and to reach athletes that I necessarily wouldn't be able to just by being a coach or by being an instructor, because I do feel called to that space and I want to get back out on the field one day. But for right now, I really hope that this is a place that everyone can feel welcome and apply the lessons to their career. So with all that being said, again, thank you for being here. Thank you for taking this journey with me. I can't wait to continue to interact with you guys, and I will see you in next week's episode. So as always, play hard, dream big, and your career is what you make it. Bye, guys.